congregations, the nation of Yahweh, the original Hebrew Israelite nation, and the Israeli school of uni. And then it cuts off, it goes to the next page. So we're going to jump to the next page, which is page 1512, and you'll see the rest of it, the Israeli school of universal practical knowledge. And then it continues to mention other groups like the Church of God, the Nubian Islamic Hebrews, and it even mentions Rastafarians and Reconstructionist Black Jews. But whatever the case, so this entry, which was written before 1996, mentions One West, and it calls it the Israeli School of Universal Practical Knowledge, and that's an indication of how old it is, how, when this writing first started. But whatever the case, then the entry goes on to discuss a number of other matters, and I guess you can zoom out so you can take a look at the fuller entry. But I'm going to jump ahead to the next page, actually it's the last page of the entry, which is page 1514, 1514, as it returns to the topic of the ISUPK, the Israeli, not Israelite, Israeli School of Universal Practical Knowledge, and it states the following. The Israeli School of Universal Practical Knowledge was founded in Harlem during the 1960s and claims to have branches throughout the United States. Two of their leaders are Tahar, who describes himself as a high priest, and Peter Sherrod, who runs the school. Like most other black Jewish groups, they believe that black people are the only true Israelites. White people are generally thought to be evil, according to their teachings of this group. They are a paramilitary organization, and their mostly male followers dress in flamboyant garb that is either African in design or altered military fatigues. Their dress is often adorned with big belt buckles, emblems of different kinds, turbans, and combat boots. They also carry large staffs or wear swords or daggers. They propagate their message from street corners in New York and by means of a public access cable TV program called It's Time to Wake Up, which began in the early 90s. They teach that the 12 tribes of Israel correspond to, quote, Negroes, i.e. African Americans, West Indians, Haitians, Dominicans, Panamanians, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, North American Indians, Seminole Indians, Brazilians, Argentinians, and Mexicans, end quote. They believe that the scriptures predict a violent confrontation between black and white people in which black people will be victorious and the ancient nation of Israel will be restored. Okay, and then here are the references which this particular entry leaned upon, and you notice Howard Protz is in there, and this particular entry was authored by a man named Shlomo Ben Levi. Now, there's not a lot to unpack here, but I thought it was interesting that it mentioned Tahar as leader. You could say they got that wrong by virtue of the fact that they missed, it seems, 6 of the 7 heads, and Tahar was not one of the 7 heads. The only one of the 7 heads they mentioned is Peter Sherrod, which is Yaiqab. But nonetheless, I think even the mention of Tahar helps to date this, because although it was published in 1996, clearly the writing was done before the House of David split, because Tahar left with the House of David. Some might think that it got it wrong in terms of mentioning Tahar as a high priest. I'm not sure. He wasn't a chief high priest or whatever the case. I don't know what exactly his title was, but he certainly was considered a priest, and perhaps he was considered a high priest. My understanding is that he was when he was there, before he left with Masha, he was the highest ranking member underneath the 7 heads. So he wasn't ranked as high as the 7 heads, but nonetheless, he was very high up there, the highest ranking member of all of those who were under the 7 heads. That's my understanding. I've even heard that from critics of Tahar. I'm not merely limiting this to Tahar partisans, as it may be. Whatever the case, I just wanted to show that. I thought it was interesting to see this entry, this attempt by someone to mention different Israelite groups and mention One West back when it was called the ISUPK, although the Israeli School of Universal Practical Knowledge, not the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, back in the apparently early 90s, from before the House of David split. So I just want to share that as a little bit of information, a little bit of trivia, a citation relevant to One West history. And with that, I'll close this here. As always, I welcome any comments, questions.